For more on this, let's welcome in President of American Principles Project, Terry Schilling, and Editor-in-Chief of the National Memo, Joe Conason. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Terry, we'll start with you. Do you agree with the Senate's decision to dismiss these articles without a full trial?
Well, listen, I think there's a case to be made here for what they did. I mean, can you imagine, guys, if what would happen if we just started impeaching people without serious evidence of any real wrongdoing, right? If we just started impeaching people based on policy disagreements, that would be so terrible. I mean, if we reelect Donald Trump this year, the Democrats could do that again. No, this is preposterous. There's enough evidence of Mayorkas' failures and lying and misleading the American people, I think, to at least have a trial. And so I think it's really criminal that they didn't even have a trial or a hearing or go through the process. It's absolutely disgusting. But we have a new precedent now. And so next time Democrats try to impeach Donald Trump when he gets reelected this year, we will be able to dismiss those charges as well.
Yeah, it just seems that all the precedent for years and years and years is going by the wayside because there's just different rules now. But Joe, do you think the Senate should have at least taken up a trial like they have always done and let the evidence speak for themselves? Again, I don't expect a Democrat-led Senate to convict, but at least go through the trial, because if for nothing else, that's how the Senate has always done it, out of respect for the House. If the House sends over the articles, you should at least respect the process, no?
No, that's exactly right. No, I was being...
I'm sorry. I apologize, Terry. I apologize, Joe. I do it to you every time. Terry, go ahead.
I think it's right. I think that they should have had the trial.
Joe, I did say Joe. All right, I wasn't wrong. I did say Joe.
We're not giving Joe the airtime.
I thought I said Joe. Go ahead, Joe. I apologize.
That's quite all right. Listen, the Senate, I think, correctly deemed this to be a political act that was meant as a sideshow for this year's campaign. It was clear from the outset that there would be not one Democratic senator who would vote to impeach Secretary Mayorkas, and therefore this was a complete waste of time and a bad precedent to set. So, no, I don't think they should have done that. And, the difference with the Trump impeachment was that, there were 7 Republican senators who supported impeaching Trump when they held the trial of him in 2021. And that, to me, meant there was at least a chance that you could reach a real impeachment decision in the Senate on that one. That's why they did that. This case, they are having a show trial of the secretary instead of voting on bipartisan border legislation that they rejected after they wanted it. They were for it, and then they were against it because of Trump. So this exposes the hollowness of their entire, idea of how to deal with the border, because they don't want to do anything about it except hold a show trial. And why would you do that? So I don't think the Senate should have entertained this for 2 seconds.
Talk about show trials. The January 6th was the biggest show trial ever in history of our country.
But the Republicans actually voted for that. As you know, 7 Republicans supported it, Michael. That's a big difference.
There's no question
there were
that
10
there are some on the
Republicans
right
in the
that
House
hate
voted
Donald
for
Trump, but it doesn't make it any less of a show.
No, it was real. That was a real event that needed to be addressed.
Well,
with real crimes that are now being prosecuted.
Turning back to Mayorkas, also dealing with accountability, he's really not taking any. He pushed the blame onto Congress this week on CBS. Let's have a look at that.
Cannot change a broken immigration system. Only Congress can do.
So there is no executive order? So you're pulling it off the table?
Oh, no, not at all. We explore options every single day. That's the responsibility of good government. We are considering options. We have been throughout.
Okay, Terry, 30 seconds. Is this just the blame game so he gets away with gaslighting Americans and not enforcing policies?
Exactly. Look, we have enough laws on the books that just need to be enforced, right? And we have plenty of federal resources. But the reason why our immigration system is so broken is because the Joe Biden administration, including Mayorkas, is signaling to the world that they aren't going to enforce the law. We have cities all across this country that have declared themselves to be sanctuary, where there will be no punishments, where they won't work with federal law enforcement to enforce the law. And so there's no punishment for it. That's why our immigration system is so broken, because it's not being enforced. And so Mayorkas is being very dishonest here.
Mm-hmm. Joe, we just had numbers up. 342 Chinese nationals were taken, across the border in 21. Now it's just this year alone, in less than 6 months, or about 6 months, it's 24,000 and changed. So let's forget H.R. 2 and the other bogus law. None of those existed in 2021. It's exploded. How do you get around that? Why does Mayorkas say that he can't do executive orders when it's the executive orders that they did that made it explode that way? 342 to over 24,000. How does that number jive?
I think you probably know that President Trump asked for the same authorities that they were trying to pass in what you called a bogus bill, the bogus bill endorsed by Jim Lankford of Oklahoma, the Republican
stop, Joe.
who
what does that have to do with
it.
the executive orders?
It gives new powers and authorities to the president and the secretary
Joe Biden doesn't
to
have
deal
the
with this.
executive authority.
Well, they need more authority, and I think, the Border Patrol Union chief agreed with that.
Then how did they get it done in
a
21?
Trump supporter. The senator from Oklahoma, conservative Republican, who negotiated the bill, agreed with it. So what? Well, no, it's not a talking point.
It's a
know
talking
very
point.
well.
You went from 342 to 24,000. What changed? What changed?
Clearly, the entire situation has changed, and there's a lot more happening down there. And both the president and his Republican counterparts in the Senate, who negotiated the bill with him, believed he needed more authority and more resources.
All right, we got to leave it there. I'd love to debate this with you more, but we got to leave it there.
For political reasons, as you know.
Terry Schilling and Joe Conason, thank you very much. Trump closed the border. I'll leave with that.